Hello, everybody, and welcome to the SKR Racing League season finale live here on Apex Racing TV from the one, the only Circuit de la Sarthe in Le Mans, France. I'm Tyler Newitt. On comms with me tonight is Marco Barbanera, and Marco is also running the cameras for us tonight. So, Marco, GTs, Le Mans, it's kind of, the combo. It's where these cars were designed to race. So I think we're going to get some pretty exceptional racing. A lot of the times, of course, in the real world, these cars don't really get the chance to shine because of the prototypes that headline the 24 hours of Le Mans. But here we've just got 35 minutes of Le Mans, and it's all GT all the time. We've got a pretty tight championship battle coming into today. We've seen Dino Torcello take 2 wins, but it seems the only person who's managed to stop Dino Torcello is Dino Torcello. So he is not running away with this championship. In fact, he's got some stiff competition, particularly from Miguel Lopez Torres in the Corvette. Marco, who's your money on for this championship as we head into the final round today?
First of all, hello everyone. Second of all, I think Torcello has been absolutely the form guy. But he's coming into this race with, possibly having lost the lead of the championship, of course, after what happened last week. So the momentum seems to be on Miguel Lopez Torres' side. We will see. Of course, here at Le Mans, it's completely opposite of what we had in Montreal, given that it's going to be, big racetrack, mostly with, wide to semi-wide runoff areas, and traffic will be much less of an issue than what we had last week. So it's going to be easier for the field to spread out and possibly easier to not run into mistakes with other cars. At the same time, of course, it's going to be very easy to make mistakes because this is one of the toughest racetracks in the world, and still is to this date. So and 35 minutes, as you were saying, like it's not going to be possible to recover from any kind of significant mistake. So yeah, it's going to be a good one. We'll keep an eye and maybe get some updates from the league themselves of the standings come the end of the race. So we will be able to crown a champion and hopefully have an interview with said champion when the night is over.
Yep, we are just now getting into qualifying. We're actually 5 minutes into qualifying, so drivers will be starting their flying laps now. I think the key that these drivers are going to have to look out for is the slowdowns. For those of you not familiar with the iRacing service, they kind of have 2 ways to penalize drivers who make mistakes. Either they get incident points, it's called, and there's usually a limit as to how many incident points a driver can receive in a race. Or this is depending on the track, really. They can get a slowdown penalty, and they'll have a message on their screen, and they have to give back the time lost before a certain amount of time is up. Usually it's about 40 seconds or so that they have to give back the time that they gained to achieve the slowdown penalty. There's a lot of those around Le Mans. The biggest one is it's very easy to get a slowdown through Tête Rouge onto the Mulsanne Straight. And getting onto the Mulsanne Straight is going to be absolutely key for these cars. It's in such a short race, the draft is going to be so important, and you're going to need to stick to the car in front of you as best you can. And if you get a slowdown penalty and lose the toe of the car in front of you, there's just really not a lot of time to recover. As we focus now on Dino Torcello, he actually didn't set a time in practice. We had quite an array of times in practice. Of course, now, if these drivers get one of those slowdown penalties that I mentioned, or an off-track or an incident point penalty, their qualifying lap won't count. And it's only a 15-minute qualifying session here around Le Mans, so at best, these drivers are going to have probably 2, maybe 3 timed laps, depending on the window that iRacing gives them at the end of the session to complete a lap, as I believe we're seeing lap times just around about 4 minutes. So there should be enough time for the drivers to, I would say, probably to complete 3 flying laps. But it's as Marco was saying, it's very easy to make a mistake around here, and it's very easy to get one of those incidents that can invalidate your lap. And again, Marco, we talk about how you can't afford to lose the draft. you can't afford to start in the back. You know, there's only 14 cars signed up for the race at the moment, but that's, you know, if you're the quickest guy and you're starting in 14th because you didn't get a lap time in qualifying, as we see the first lap times begin to roll in, and it's championship competitor Lopez Torres who goes briefly to the top ahead of Bruno Alcaraz, about a half second behind, which over a lap at Le Mans is not a significant amount of time. But Marco, we talk about it. If you don't get a qualifying lap in or don't get a representative qualifying lap in, you're kind of in trouble come race time because you've got to get by all those cars. And as much as you might have the toe on the Mulsanne straight, the car in front of you is probably going to have a toe as well.
Absolutely correct. I agree with you, and I think that also the first chicane is always a big place where a place where trouble can always happen, especially if you are if you are in the middle to back of the pack. The driver come they're very excited. You come there at a massive speed, and braking is always a bit sketchy, especially when you consider that the drivers have a very extremely short pace lap around here. So it's basically do a couple of corners and then start. And by the way, of course, starting towards the back of the field, you might get the green flag while you are in the middle of the final chicane, and it's never easy. It's a bit sketchy getting the green flag there, and sometimes you can also get a slowdown before the green flag drops there if you're not too careful, or before you go to the start finish line. So one of the worst places I think in iRacing to start not from the front of the field.
Absolutely right, Marco. Yeah, it's really a challenge with the rolling start here, even with a standing start. You don't have all of the cars on the front stretch at the time of the green flag, especially if the leader decides to go early, which it's their prerogative to go as soon as the pace car pulls off. So a wise leader may make a break for it as soon as the pace car is off because he knows that the field is going to struggle to get through the last two chicanes too wide. And then, of course, you have to brake into the kind of turn 2 chicane. I believe it's the Dunlop chicane at the top of the hill, which is always on cold tires, as you mentioned, a recipe for disaster around here. The cars, as you said, it's a short pace lap. They start the cars right kind of on the short straight leading into the Ford chicanes, I believe. So the cars don't have a lot of time to warm up their tires, and it's very easy to get braking wrong. And if you get braking wrong into that chicane, it's very easy to end someone else's race aside from your own right from the get-go. So even our championship hopefuls, so Dino Torcello, Lopez Torres, Rivas Brea, Alcaraz, these are all the names that we've come to expect to be up front over the past 4 weeks. But even if they're starting up front, which it looks like they may, they're going to have to be watching over their shoulder at the beginning, and that's not an easy thing to do, to keep your focus forward but also keep an eye behind you for trouble that might be coming. And that's what's so hard about racing, that I think sometimes people don't even think about, is that you've got to be paying attention to everything that's around your car. Situational awareness is such an important factor in any form of racing, but particularly on, say, the opening lap of a race at Le Mans. You just have to be aware of what's going on to maximize your chances at winning this race. So as the times continue to roll in, we're seeing Bruno Alcaraz finishing a quick lap. We'll see if he goes quicker. He's currently sitting 4th. Dino Torcello, as we mentioned, Bruno does, that is a tiny gap. It's generally, I think, kind of within reach around a track that's a 4-minute lap around Le Mans. You would say probably 3/4 to a second off of the leader is within reach of them in a 4-minute lap. It's a very long lap. So for Bruno Alcaraz, I think it might sting a little to just be within a 1/10 of the current pole sitter, Dino Torcello. As we head into the closing stages of qualifying here, we see Julio Del Carpio, setting a time, and that's Miguel Lopez Torres, who does not improve behind him. This is Mauricio Otero heading into the final complex of chicanes. Can take a decent amount of curb in these cars, but Otero is steering well clear of him as somebody is spinning off in the back there. See if Otero improves. He had some decent sectors. I believe that's Freddie Yempen, perhaps? No. Well, yes. Yempen makes the mistake as well, but it was
No, it was him. It was him. It was the.
It was
white,
it was
white
Yempen. Okay, I thought I recognized the livery. It's a sharp-looking BMW he's got there.
You know, Tyler, I was thinking about like many years ago. I was, when I say many, I mean many. It was like 2004. I was basically. I still remember the day it came out as a massive race fan. Of you know, despite being tough to follow back then of North American racing, and of course being Italian. The moment Alex Zanardi first autobiography came out, I rushed to the bookstore with my parents, of course, because I was 15 at the time, and I got it. And I remember in his first season in Champ Car, when they arrived at Road America for the first time, his race engineer Monan, who recently passed away, like the first thing he told him about racing at Road America, he said, if you get like a half a second from the guy in front on this racetrack, it's like getting 1/10 at another racetrack, and that's what I'm thinking here. As we say that, here we go. Torcello puts on 47.493. It's 6/10 of a second in front of Bruno Alcaraz, who now has to respond. So, I mean, yeah, and imagine that the comparison, of course, being even bigger here, of course, at Le Mans, where the lap is much longer than Road America. But to give the idea, no, of course, I always get angry, and I mean angry, even though I shouldn't be angry because people don't know what they talk about. But even F1 commentators, every year when we race, for example, at Zeltweg, you know, what's the current name of the track? Oh God, in Austria, Zeltweg was
the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, when the dinosaurs were around, we called it Zeltweg. They say, oh, the winner lapped everyone but the first three. Well, of course, it's a 1 minute 5 second lap. Of course, he lapped everyone.
Exactly.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, you got it, Marco. Exactly. It's one of those finer points that I think gets glossed over a lot. But you know, some people will say you should always be within a second of the quick guys, and that's just not true because there's such a variation in lap time across tracks. Sure, in Formula One you probably get a bit more compressed because they're all about the same length, besides like the Red Bull Ring in Spa. But to be in a 3 minute and 47.493 second lap for Dino Torcello, for Bruno Alcaraz to be within half a second, that's, you know, that's losing less than 1/10 of a second every corner through the track, which is phenomenal. It shows pretty impressive pace, and Alcaraz has actually set a couple of purple sectors on this lap, so we'll have to see what he can do. As the checkered flag is out for qualifying, so these laps the drivers are on will count, but they won't be able to start another. As Alcaraz weaves his way through the final couple of corners, careful not to run wide. Oh, I think that's going to be a 1x.
Yeah.
And that invalidates Bruno's lap, so that's a shame for Bruno Alcaraz, but
watch out
certainly
for
showing
Miguel,
some pace. Yeah,
watch out for Miguel. He
is
could beat
up.
him for second place. Oh, he doesn't. Oh.
He doesn't. A rough last couple of sectors for Miguel Lopez Torres is going to start him at best in third, as we see Julio Del Carpio come through. He doesn't improve. Juan Rivas Brea, we expect to be pretty quick, is also just finishing up a lap. We'll see if he can jump his teammate Lopez Torres or Bruno Alcaraz, or even Torcello. Of course, he's set some pretty quick sectors. He's a little wiggly through the final chicane, comes across the line.
Ooh, second.
And he goes to second place. Still half a second off Torcello, but that's a pretty good lap from Rivas Brea. And as we were just saying, half a second around Le Mans is nothing to scoff at. So Rivas Brea definitely going to be competitive today. Just a couple cars still out on track. Freddie Yempen just finished his lap. Adolfo Macher, Rafael Benavides, both finishing laps as well. Macher goes 9th. Benavides is off track, so he's not going to be able to finish that lap. And he's just going to head back to the pits.
You know, there are some racetracks here in iRacing, and of course in real life as well. But here in iRacing, they are even more terrible. They have this final corner that's basically an off-track magnet. I'm thinking about here, the new Silverstone, Road Atlanta, and you know, and if you basically take the off-track late enough in the lap, it could register in both the lap you are finishing and the lap you are starting, which is you know, a double punch in the face, basically. You know, so yeah, imagine you. And Road Atlanta, you can live with that. But here at Le Mans, especially, you have fought for almost 4 minutes. So you come to the final corner, bang, off track. Go back to
If
the
you could
starting
see me,
position.
if you could see me, Marco, you'd see me nodding my head vigorously in agreement. I did a Supercars League race here not too long ago, and got a slowdown from just barely cutting the last chicane, and it ended up costing me both laps, and I ended up starting well behind where I thought I deserved, which was a little unfortunate. So we've got the starting lineup up here. It is Dino Torcello, probably the quickest man in this league that we've seen consistently. He's on pole once again with a 347.493, which is a pretty quick lap around Le Mans. It's Juan Rivas Brea in second place, Bruno Alcaraz in third, Miguel Lopez Torres, perhaps the closest championship competitor to Dino Torcello, so he's going to have to jump a couple of places to be in contention. He will line up in fourth. Juan Puyot in fifth place, it's Mauricio Otero on his outside, Christian Vizcarra Peruano in seventh, Rafael Benavides in eighth, Adolfo Macher in ninth, Ignacio Chirinos in 10th, Yun Martinez in 11th, Freddie Yempen 12th, and it's Javier Paez and Julio Del Carpio who round out the field. The 14-car field here at Le Mans is just beginning to grid up now. Dino Torcello will lead them to the green, and as we mentioned, it's Dino's prerogative to go when he wants to go once the pace car is pulled off. So I think if he's smart, which he's proven to be through this entire series, he'll go pretty much as soon as he can and kind of try and catch the cars behind him off guard through the first few chicanes.
We are waiting for the counter to go to the 2 minutes. But we have everyone ready on the grid, so I think we will start a few seconds earlier. And in fact, here we go. The fact that the starting lights appear means that the pace car is about to move in 10 seconds time from when they appear. And just as we say that, here we go. We are awaiting the French Air Patrol to put on the usual show for us, and very loud show for us.
I must say, Marco, you'd almost think it was scripted the way you knew how soon the pace car would leave after the lights came on. So almost like we're living in a simulation, I'd say. But Torcello is leading the field down. He'll have Bruno Alcaraz to his outside at the start of the race. That's two Argentinian drivers in the top two. I'm sorry, Rivas Brea is on his outside. It's Bruno behind him. But as we mentioned, it's a pretty short pace lap here at Le Mans. It's a lot of the tracks, the older tracks in iRacing, you have to do a full circuit. I think Le Mans was actually one of the first where they introduced this shorter pace lap because it would have been rather ridiculous to have the cars circulate the entire lap before taking the green flag, taking several minutes. So the field works their way through the Porsche curves here, led by that beautiful Porsche pace car. Several Porsches in the field, although none qualifying particularly well. It's, I believe Mauricio Otero was the top qualifying Porsche. They work their way towards the final chicanes. The pace car will pull off just before the last chicane, I believe. At that point, Torcello will be free to go. So there's the French Air Patrol doing the flyover. And we're about ready to take the green flag here. As we mentioned, these drivers will need to watch out as they head into turn one. It's going to be quite hectic on the braking, and it's a pretty clean league, but hopefully we don't see any trouble. But there's a decent chance that there is somebody making a mistake on the brakes into that first chicane. Pace car peels off. Torcello has stepped on it, and already there's a spin, and it's two championship and front-running contenders. It's Bruno Alcaraz and Rivas Brea. I'm not sure there was contact. It looked like they just sort of both spun in sync. Oh, that's unbelievable, and it's given Torcello a huge gap as he heads towards the first chicane. His championship rival, Lopez Torres, hunts him down in second. It's Juan Carlos Puyot, the big beneficiary, up into third place. Mauricio Otero and Christian Vizcarra round out the top five. So here's the look. Oh, there was contact. And that's exactly what we said about these starts at Le Mans. It's so difficult to get through those chicanes too wide. You know, Rivas Brea had the right to have his nose in there. Perhaps he could have given Alcaraz a little bit more room, but that's just the perils of Le Mans as the cars work their way through Tête Rouge for the first time. We'll see pretty quickly if anybody has a slowdown, because they'll hopefully peel off and start dropping positions. You don't want to see a driver kind of get in the way if they've got a slowdown. But it's Dino Torcello out to a 2.5 second lead already. My goodness. He benefited so massively from that before the start line contact as they head into the first chicane. Some competition for position in 6th place, but everyone stays about how they were.
Yes, of course everyone behind him had to basically slow down, so you know, stomp on the brakes, and so that was the perfect possible start for Dino, apart from the fact that his main rival was the biggest beneficiary after him, even though now Torres is under big pressure from Carlos Puyol. He's
yes, he is.
But looks like Lopez is able to hold on, but he needs, you know, to shrug all this competition off and go and catch, because I think that he still needs to finish in front of Dino to win the title.
I believe he does. We're not totally sure on the championship standings at the moment, but I do know that Dino does get a point for his pole position there, so that's going to help out his championship chances for sure. Right now, the gap is not really changing. Perhaps it shrunk a little bit in Lopez Torres's favor there, but really it's stayed right around about 2.5, 2.6 seconds, as Lopez Torres was able to stave off the attack from Puyol behind. The biggest mover so far, we've got several cars up 3 places. Obviously, most of the field is up 2 places from that first lap spin. Macher, Chirinos, and Paez are all up 3 places. Paez now up 4 as he's fighting there with, I believe, Yun Martinez in the Porsche. Porsche's not looking particularly strong here. It's more the BMWs and the Corvette having a strong showing. It's unfortunate we don't have any Ferraris here. Oh, as that's Pen around in the back. That's unfortunate. Did he have help there? I don't know. There was another car in the picture. I believe that was Rivas Brea, who obviously had his problems at the start.
See, Tyler, of the two contenders that collided in the first corner, well, not in the last corner of the pace lap, Bruno Alcaraz seems to have gotten away with it the best, because he's already up 9th, whilst Rivas Brea is really limping behind. Look at that. He might have some they touched the wheel on wheel, so maybe Rivas could have suspension damage.
It's certainly possible. I did see Rivas Brea cut the first chicane. Either he missed his braking, or as you mentioned, he has some suspension damage, so we'll have to see. It looked like it was taking a lot of effort to get through that corner, so it's entirely possible that he's got some sort of damage, but he would have gotten a slowdown for cutting that chicane. As, oh no, we've got more trouble. That's Paez and Del Carpio, both having spins in the final chicane complex, giving Rivas Brea a couple more positions for free, essentially. Brea doesn't peel into the pit lane, so I guess he doesn't have too much damage. As we are looking at Javier Paez, as we head into the chicanes, does he just caught a little bit too much curb. I remember, I think it was Paul Dall'Anna and Aston Martin doing that in the closing hours of the 24 hours of Le Mans a few years ago. So even the best are can make that mistake. So Javier Paez shouldn't feel too bad about himself. And there's Macher's spin. Okay, so I'm sorry, it wasn't Del Carpio, it was Macher. The liveries look a bit similar, but a couple of spins there, and we focus forward. It looks like, is that Benavides? Yep. That's exactly what we were talking about at the start. Benavides just ran likely a little bit too wide at Tête Rouge, or cut it a little bit too close, and now he's got to pay the price and give back these positions to Del Carpio, and Puyol, I believe, went by him as well. Bruno Alcaraz, meanwhile, is working his way steadily back up through the field after his spin. He's clearly got a lot of pace. We saw in qualifying as, oh no, that's more trouble for Adolfo Macher, I believe, in the first chicane. as Paez goes by him now. They're well off the pack at this point. It's going to be pretty difficult to catch up. But as we were saying, Bruno Alcaraz clearly has a lot of pace. He was not too far off Torcello in qualifying and showed pretty quick on the lap that he got an off track and didn't complete. He set a couple of purple sectors. So certainly it's hard to call anybody out of it at this point because we've seen the chaos that can unfold. I think, what was it, 3 different people crashed from the lead at Montreal? So
Yes, yeah.
I would hesitate to say Alcaraz is out of it, but he's got a lot of ground to make up, some 12 seconds behind Torcello, who has opened that gap up over Lopez. Torres now up to 3.6 seconds, so about a second gain from when they went through this point in the track last lap. We jump back to Martinez and Puyol battling over 7th position. Puyol looks pretty sporty in that Corvette. I'm actually not sure how he fell back there because I think he was running a bit further up. He must have had maybe a slowdown or a spin himself. But he's got that top end speed working, and he's looking to make a move on Martinez and should have it done pretty easily as they head into Indianapolis. He might even clear him by the time they hit the kink there. Yep, Puyol is through. That's 7th place for Juan Carlos Puyol. As we see Alcaraz closing in on Ignacio Chirinos. I think we're going to get a replay here. Running 3rd, and did he take too much curve? Oh, a spin, and that'll be a slowdown for him, although I think the spin did more harm than the slowdown would have. So he dropped back quite a few. That's how Puyol dropped back. Yep.
Yeah.
He's actually done pretty well to make up as many spots as he has at this point, because it looked like he dropped quite a bit further back there. But holding on to 7th place, Martinez not giving up though, as the Porsche fights its way through the Porsche curves. He just looks, I just want to say that Puyol looks a little more tidy. You know, Martinez is really flinging that car through the Porsche curves, which is a lot of fun, but perhaps not the fastest way around, as Alcaraz has caught Chirinos here.
And Otero jumped Lopez Torres.
Yeah, something happened him as well, as he's dropped behind Otero. As Alcaraz makes the move on Chirinos to move back into the top 5, Bruno is on a charge here. And was it just a slowdown for Lopez Torres? It looked like he was pretty wide coming out of the Porsche curves there. Yes, he's serving the slowdown there, definitely. So, tough break for Lopez Torres. Great break for Dino Torcello, as he's now got 6.6 seconds, and it's not over his championship rival anymore. Mauricio Otero has slotted into 2nd place. Pretty good run from Otero. He had a decent showing in Montreal as well in that Porsche, and he's up 4 spots here at Le Mans as well.
You know,
Dino,
Tyler, I was thinking about something that also came to my mind about this track, and that will come probably into play later, is that the pit entrance to this place is quite tricky and very easy to get you know, an unsafe pit entrance, because you come there with such massive speed. If you outbrake yourself, you could cut that little access road to the pit lane, and you know, so this race is this track reminds me of a Mario Kart track. You know, there are so many possible you know, trouble spots that can really ruin your race in an instant.
Absolutely right, Marco. The drivers that have practiced pit entry in practice are going to be a lot better off than the drivers who didn't, because it is tricky and the penalty is extremely harsh. I think it's something like a 40-second stop and hold for cutting the pit entrance, and you have to serve it the next time around. They won't just hold you at the end of your pit stop, I believe. So these drivers have got to be very careful about that, and it's good you bring that up, because yes, these drivers are going to have to stop. It's only a 35-minute race, but the fuel tanks on these cars are restricted, so everybody's going to have to make at least 1 pit stop for fuel, likely not for tires, just not using them enough to justify it, since they don't take tires and fuel at the same time. We saw at Montreal, I think, some of the cars who were maybe dropping out of contention take some tires, maybe try and set a fastest lap or gain some spots back that way. But as far as a leader strategy, it's really not favored.
It is not, absolutely, especially you know, it rarely works in the official series, which are a bit longer. So even here, even less here. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And also, Le Mans is a track that historically, of course, the biggest example being the somewhat recent race in the Esports Super Cup, but also in the past I've done a couple of Le Mans Series race around here, where the white flag came out at a very unpleasant moment and caused, for example, everyone to do an extra lap. And with the limited fuel tanks that we have here, getting a white flag at the wrong moment could provide for an exciting fuel-saving run in the last lap. So we'll have to see, as Lopez Torres tries to get back second place, side by side with Otero, as they enter the right-hander here, and it's a brave move from the Corvette driver, but a successful one, and up into second once again is Miguel Lopez Torres. But now Torcello almost 8 seconds in front, so he needs for something magic to happen. And probably the slowdown he got earlier, because it had this corner here, because another place where it's super easy to go a bit wide and get yourself a nice slowdown. Oh, what happened to Torcello? He might have made a mistake. He's in the gravel.
Oh my goodness.
I think he got away with it, but he lost a bit of time.
He'll lose some time, and he'll definitely have a slowdown to serve here, I believe, because he certainly cut the corner, and Torres is shrinking that gap rapidly. It's now down to just 5 seconds. We'll get a look here at what happened. I imagine it's going to look very similar to the mistakes some of the other drivers in the BMWs have made through here. Yep, Now, he did well to catch that before nosing it into the barrier like we saw, I believe it was Paez do earlier. That's perhaps shows a bit quicker reactions from Dino Torcello, but he's all right. He'll regroup and carry on with a 5-second lead now over championship rival Lopez Torres. It's an interesting point you mentioned, Marco, about when the white flag comes out here. The way iRacing works is it tries and calculates I think it bases it off what the fastest lap of the race at the time is, and once the leader crosses the line and there's less than that amount of time left, it'll throw the white flag. I was doing a race in the supercars at the Nordschleife, which obviously is a much longer lap, but similar in principle to Le Mans, because it's a long lap and you use a lot of fuel over the course of the lap. And a teammate of mine was leading the race and setting an absolutely rapid pace, and everybody had planned for the race to go a certain amount of laps, and we knew that at the pace our teammate was running that it was probably going to go a lap longer. So everyone on our team came in, took the amount of fuel for one extra lap, and I'll just say that we all finished pretty well in that race, because a number of drivers we're not prepared for the race to go an extra lap. So it's just another factor in iRacing that can come into play here in the end. I don't know that we're going to be close to a cutoff point like that based on the lap times these drivers are doing. It also depends on, how long the pit stops are, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on as we reach the closing stages of this race, how close it may be to an extra lap for some of these drivers, because if you're Dino Torcello and you're in control of that, you can set a pace, as we see Rivas Brea continuing to march his way back to the front. That's 8th place over Martinez in the Porsche. But if you're Torcello and you can make the race go a lap longer, and you think that Lopez Torres hasn't fueled to the finish, then it certainly could come into play come the end of this race. We're riding on board now with Chirinos as he's chasing down Puyol in 6th place. And I think the benefit Chirino has here is just being in the tow while Puyol doesn't have a car in front of him. You get this sometimes at tracks with long straights like Le Mans, where you get these battle groups that form, where the cars will be in a group of 4 or 5 perhaps, or even just a couple of... Oh no! Oh, as Puyol goes for a spin, and he will drop at least 3 or 4 spots. He was in 6th, I believe, and now sits in 10th place. So more troubles for Puyol. That's unfortunate in that Corvette. Just carried, I think, a little bit too much speed through Indianapolis. Got on the curb. And yep, and he got damaged there too. That's tough. It's so easily done. Just running a little bit wide in Indianapolis, and that gravel is very unforgiving. It just snaps the car around. But the point I was making is you get these little battle groups forming, as you see one here with Lopez Torres and Otero, where the car in front can't really do anything to break free of the cars behind just because the toe is so strong and there's so many straightaway sections. But if they've lost the car in front of them, then there's just no hope of them ever stretching a big enough gap to break through the pack without somebody behind them making a mistake. But it's Dino Torcello in control. Once again, he's opened up that lead that was down to 5 seconds now to 6.5, and it looks like Rivas Brea has another slowdown there.
Yeah, going to get passed by Benavides and probably Martinez as well, as they get into the first chicane once again. Porsche is tough on the brake usually, but he has such a massive, better momentum due to not having the slowdown, and Puyol unfortunately has to go for a pit stop because that front right was extremely damaged, and that
Yes.
he could be lucky in the sense that this could fall into the pit window, as Chirinos is around as well.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, as you're saying, Puyol could luck out here in some senses because the pit window is probably open, but at a track like Le Mans, it's far more important to stay in that battle group, as we were talking about, in a drafting drafting group, like we see here with Martinez and Rivas Brea and Benavides there, as they go side by side into the first chicane. No trouble, Martinez gives Rivas Brea the spot. I think he knows that Rivas Brea is a bit quicker at this point, as he's working his way back towards the front. But it could work out for Puyol, although he is having quite a long pit stop here. I'm not certain that these cars have fast repair, because we saw a number of cars with damage going to the pits in Montreal and have some particularly long pit stops. So there's a chance that Puyol has damage that he's unable to get repaired with a fast repair, excuse me, and is now serving that time as he's dropping quite a ways behind the field.
So our timer at the bottom of the screen follows the pit stop until it's 2 minutes long. Longer than that, unfortunately, the system thinks that the driver is in big trouble and stops counting, and now the pit time in the pit stall is 1 minute and a half. He's coming out right now, but yeah, that was a very long stop. Now we'll see, because if he still has some cosmetic damage on his car, it means that the fast repair is not an option.
And he does indeed on that left front. Yeah, still bent up a little bit. So unfortunate for Puyol. It probably puts him out of certainly puts him out of this race in any competitive sense, but he'll hopefully continue to lap around and maybe pick up some spots from drivers that fall by the wayside, as we see a battle group here forming between Del Carpio and Chirinos. After Chirinos' spin, he's trying to work his way back forward. You can see a little damage on the right front of that BMW as well, but he seems to have the pace on Del Carpio, but obviously with two cars of the same manufacturer, he's not going to get a massive overspeed with the toe as they head into Indianapolis. And nothing he can do so far. Del Carpio holds on to the spot for now. We jump forward to Rivas Brea and Benavides. Benavides has done well to hold on to Rivas Brea here. The two of them have dropped Martinez a little bit, but Benavides has not let Rivas Brea get away. I think the top group in this league are pretty competitive and all within a reasonable pace range, as we see Otero and Lopez Torres battling. They're all headed for the pit lane. Torcello as well, so you must be able to make it from here, surely. Otherwise our leaders wouldn't be pitting, and perhaps this is as far as you can make it. Considering with the way the fuel tanks are limited, you're not going to be able to stretch it much past the halfway point in the race, just because the laps are so long. They may have just had to make the pit stop here as they were running on fumes, as we see the entire field headed into pit lane, and I think that's the case.
It's absolutely mellow tones of this pit entry siren here at Le Mans. Like, perfect to wake up in the morning, I would say.
Or to sing you to sleep at night in my case, but these drivers, everybody headed into pit lane non-stop. Almost looks like they've decided to park the cars. There's nobody staying out on track, so surely the cars have reached their fuel limit. Will be interesting to see where Puyol slots in, if he's able to gain any spots back, but with the pit time we saw and drivers already leaving pit lane, I don't think Puyol has much of a chance. Looks as though gaps have stayed pretty equal. Lopez Torres perhaps gained a little bit on Torcello, and he gapped Otero. So as we mentioned, as we come to the end of this race, it'll be interesting to see if Lopez Torres is perhaps running a bit
Someone
short on
going
fuel, as it looks like.
reverse.
I think Chirino's overshot his pit stall. Maybe lost sight of where it was. Well, no, he was just stopped very briefly. That was curious.
That's a nice way, easy way to get, by the way, disqualified in iRacing if you go back, let's say you can go back like 50 meters but not 51, so...
Yeah, I certainly hope he didn't miss his stall, because I don't think he's going to complete a lap if he did. And he might be in trouble there if he missed his stall and wasn't able to reverse far enough to get back in it. Benavides still in pit lane. Did
long
he have
stop,
some
yeah.
damage?
1 minute and a half
yeah.
in the pit lane. So
we can see too, because he was right up with Rivas Brea in 6th place, and now he's some 25 seconds behind him. So definitely a substantially longer stop for Benavides there. Does still come out well ahead of Puyol. So if Benavides was servicing some damage, he had less than Puyol in that case, I think. Torcello continuing to stretch the gap. Now 4.5 seconds over Lopez Torres after the pit stops. I think we're going to see that grow. Haven't really seen indication that anyone can challenge Torcello's pace. Looking down at the best lap table, and Dino is more than a second clear of the next quickest lap. We've got Dino, who's done a 3:48.2, and then we have 3 other drivers who have done 49s. That's Lopez Torres, Alcaraz, and Rivas Brea, the usual suspects. Everybody else, as we see the lap times on screen there, thank you, Marco. Everybody else in the 50s or slower, which, as we mentioned, around Le Mans is it's not saying much to be a full second off those guys. Though I think it is fair to say that Torcello has a little bit of pace over just about everyone in the field. So if he can keep it on track, I think he's going to be in pretty good shape here. As we see Paez and Macher, 2 guys who have had trouble. They both spun on the same lap earlier, now fighting over 10th position. So lots of battles going on through this field. That's one thing Le Mans, I think, does really well, is you get lots of competitive racing kind of throughout the field. It's, unless you're Dino Torcello, you've been in a scrap with somebody today.
yeah, you tend to fall with people of your own space basically, and we could have a nice 4-car battle here. So
perhaps an ambitious move by Paez there to try and make it work around Mulsanne corner. That's really a one-groove corner. It was good of Macher to leave space there, but I don't think Paez was really going to accomplish much. But he may be able to get a run on Macher down into Indianapolis as he pulls to the outside. This is a corner where you can make the outside work because it sets you up for the inside into Indianapolis, but instead he'll just tuck back in under braking. It would have taken a very late lunge on the brakes to make that move happen, and I think Paez thought better of it. But these two have caught the 2 in front of them. That's Del Carpio and Chirinos. Chirinos still unable to get by Del Carpio, even though seemingly having a little bit of a pace advantage. So perhaps that damage is hurting Chirinos in the straights, and he's serving a slowdown, it looks like, right now. Yep. So Paez and Macher both get by, and they'll see if they can deal with Del Carpio. I think Chirinos may just be dealing with some of that damage, slowing him down on the straights. And if you can't keep up with a car on the straights, it's very difficult to pass them in the corners, because a lot of the passing here happens under braking. It's now 5.9, almost 6 seconds for Torcello over Lopez Torres. Clearly, he's got the advantage in terms of pace. So I think we are going to see Dino run away with this one a little bit, barring further incident. Obviously, these cars are not so stable that he can cruise to the finish, because we saw his issues at the chicane, as Paez nearly did the same thing that he did earlier and that Torcello did as well. Those BMWs look so slidey through the first set of chicanes that it's very easy to get wrong, but he held on to it.
They really don't like that. It's like, it's almost an oddity to see this massive car try to take that quick left right there at.
And I believe that was Del Carpio who just went off, as we see Chirinos going slow. It was Del Carpio spun into the first chicane. I don't know if he went around fully, but he definitely got sideways there and lost 2 spots to Macher and Paez. Yeah, just locked up the rears under brakes, maybe broke a little bit too late, and the Peruvian driver will settle in behind Javier Paez.
So Chirinos is in to repair the damage, and I think it's going to be a long one. He still has to come into his pit stall. So he leaves these three guys to fight between themselves now. And this is going to be, I think, a fight that, unless something crazy happens, is going to end up at the finish line.
Yeah, these three all seem to be pretty similar on pace. Perhaps Del Carpio a bit slower than the two, and we just saw his mistake, so he'll have some hot tires to contend with. But Paez and Macher have been together pretty much all race, and neither one has really shown, as a slowdown for Del Carpio is going to separate him from those two, lose the draft, and he'll struggle to make that ground back up. But as we were saying, Macher and Paez seem pretty content to battle it out to the finish, and this is probably the closest battle we see on track, as Otero's about 2 seconds behind Lopez Torres, and Alcaraz a further second behind him. Alcaraz has been pretty quick though, so we'll see if he can close that gap to Otero. He's about within drafting distance now, which is going to help him quite a bit. I don't know if he's going to have the pace to overtake Lopez Torres, but he's certainly got the pace, I think, to jump Otero and get onto a podium position here before the end of the race. You can't help but feel for Alcaraz, though. Not really his fault, the spin at the start. I mean, perhaps he could have left Rivas Brea a little bit more room, but that's kind of the finer details of an incident that doesn't have them. So tough break for Alcaraz, but looks like he can work his way back to a podium here if all goes according to plan. As looked like Macher had to slow down and Paez goes through. Probably not going to separate these two though, as Macher stays within a second. He'll have the tow from Paez. We jump back to Alcaraz now, heading through the Porsche curves. That Corvette just looks so smooth through the Porsche curves as it chases down the Porsche in front of it. That's Otero, currently the highest running Porsche. We've got the three manufacturers represented here tonight in the top three positions, with the BMW leading a Corvette ahead of a Porsche in third. Of course, that'll all change if Alcaraz can jump Otero here in the near future, but at the moment, pretty good representation from the three manufacturers. Unfortunately, no Ferraris tonight. It was already an unpopular car to begin with, and I think they're a little bit down on straight line speed with the BOP as it stands, so would have been a tough order for them to contend here today. So no Ferraris in the field as it stands, but Alcaraz continues to hunt down Otero, and it looks like Lopez Torres actually closed the gap to Torcello a little bit, not a noteworthy amount, as he's still 7.7 seconds back with some 7 minutes remaining in the race.
I think, Tyler, this is going to be the car to watch for the rest of the race, because Alcaraz seems to be on a mission to go at least to get second place, third place, sorry, but even second could be, as you were saying earlier, within the realm of possibilities. He's gaining more than 1 second last lap on Otero, so he's pushing really hard. Look at that, almost half a second now.
Yes, getting a nice tow from the Porsche as we head into the first chicane down the Mulsanne Straight. It's going to probably be too tall in order to get him on the brakes this time, but I think he might have a shot in the, whoa. Oh, that was a good catch from Alcaraz there. He is clearly flinging that Corvette around the chicane. So probably not going to be able to make the move on Otero with that little slide there, but he's got the pace. And he does seem to have a little bit of pace in hand over second place Lopez Torres as well. That's the last thing Lopez Torres wants for his championship chances, but Alcaraz certainly hustling that car. He's been the guy I've been watching all race. I think he's got a pretty quick Corvette there, and if he can contend with these two, I think he's gonna make a move when it comes down to it.
As he's showing us basically a lap of Le Mans. One thing I like, more at the Nürburgring, not Schleife than here, but when we have a race there, I like to basically do it a little bit, and I use this word loosely, realistic, and so for the majority of the lap when we have a broadcast there, I like to go to the onboard shot. Le Mans is a bit different, but of course at night time they only use onboard shots for the vast majority of the lap, so pretend it's night and enjoy a lap on board with Alcaraz as he's trying to go for the move.
He flings it to the Corvette to the outside of that Porsche as they head in the run down to Indianapolis. So Careful here not to get a slowdown, because you can pick them up if you stay a little bit too wide into the corner here, but he's got that move done and dusted. We ride now on board with Otero to see if he can fight back, but I think the Corvette has just got that little extra bit of pace. Oh, awful close there to the bumper of Alcaraz was Otero, but they head off down the stretch here with a little bit more of a gap between them, and I think it's going to continue to grow. Now the key will be to see if Bruno Alcaraz can close down on Lopez Torres. We ride on board with Otero in the Porsche as they head into the beautiful Porsche curves, and this is just one of those sections of track that when you get it right, it's just incredibly satisfying. You know, I think there's sections of track like that in a lot of tracks, but the Porsche curves are one of those that just, they're a rhythm section, you know? And just like in music, when you hit a rhythm section, you get rocking and rolling, and it's a lot of fun. Similarly, you know, over the top of the mountain at Bathurst, Mount Panorama is one of them, for sure. The S's in Petit Le Mans, once you get those right, it's just so satisfying as Alcaraz has continued to gap Otero. We jump now back to the battle that we said would go to the finish, as it seems like it will. It's Macha now on Paez for 8th place. And he's not going to make that stick around the outside. That was ambitious, but not to be into the Porsche curves. He settles back into 9th. He knows that he can get a toe on Paez, and Paez probably isn't going to pull away from him at this late stage of the race. Now, I didn't note when Dino Torcello crossed the line, Marco, but it had to have been very close to 4 minutes remaining.
It was very close as... Okay, I'm missing a car. Okay, so Macker went back past Paez. It was very close, I think. Oh dear!
Oh goodness!
No. And again, the BMW graveyard there. That's really not... Oh dear! Dear me. Benavides... No, that was Chirinos. No, it was... Someone was going there. That was a mysterious driver. So, back to the point at hand. It was around 3 minutes... sorry, there were 3 minutes 45 left.
Okay.
I think.
Do you know if we got the white flag?
So, I don't know, but I think we did get the white flag.
All right. So we believe that Dino Torcello is on his final lap here, but there is the potential for one more, and that could wreak havoc among these drivers if they have to stretch their fuel for another lap here. Alexis Buve. Just subscribe to Apex Racing TV. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it. We ride on board with Julio Del Carpio. Oh goodness. That was Javier Paez, I believe, backing out after his spin got quite close. But no harm, no foul. Perhaps would have been a protest for an unsafe rejoin there for Paez had there been contact, but he gets away with it there as Torcello rides the curbs on the run down to Indianapolis. Now 10 seconds in hand over Lopez Torres. I think he is cruising out there right now. A comfortable margin and a pretty comfortable looking BMW, as it has been all season for Torcello. As I mentioned at the Open, it's really just been his own mistakes that have bit him so far this season. When it comes to pace, he's been pretty much unmatched. You know, Lopez Torres, Alcaraz, Rivas Brea, the names we've heard up front today, can sometimes put a lap in that'll match Torcello. Sometimes they'll pull a little time back during the race, but generally speaking, when it comes to consistent pace, it's been nobody but Dino Torcello up top.
He needed a professional effort, and he did. I mean, he was absolutely faultless, and I think, although unofficially, we will know probably more later, he's going to bring home the Copa GT title here in the SKR Racing League, as he's taking the final few corners before the well-deserved champagne.
He works his way through the first of the chicanes, and now the second, taking quite a bit of curb there. A bit risky given it's the last corner, but he pulls to the inside to the pit wall. Dino Torcello, your winner at Le Mans. Lopez Torres, a solid, but perhaps not quite solid enough race. He comes home second. Bruno Alcaraz, really a fantastic effort to get back onto the podium after his early spin. Mauricio Otero, the top finishing Porsche in 4th place. Christian Vizcarra rounds out the top 5, also in a Porsche. It's Rivas Brea, who recovered not quite as well from his pre-start line issue into 6th place. A 3:49.9, that's a pretty quick final lap there. Martinez heads through the final set of corners now. He will finish 7th, barring a massive issue. Also in a Porsche, obviously. And then, we've got cars parked at the Dunlop Bridge. I think we're going to see some donuts here from Dino Torcello.
Either that on some Robot Wars style mayhem, but no, they're going for the burnouts.
Now, I'm not sure. I saw, as Macher crosses the line in 8th place, I saw Lopez Torres doing a burnout as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps he thinks he won the championship. Again, we're not totally certain on the championship standings. We'll hopefully have something for you before the end of the broadcast, but as it stands, we don't know who won that battle. Perhaps Lopez Torres has done enough, finishing in 2nd place, to yank the championship from Dino Torcello. Puyol, I would say a race of what could have been for him today. Just got that bit of damage after running wide in Indianapolis and couldn't really recover. 2 minutes or so in the pits for repairs in a 35-minute race is not going to win you anything. But good on him for sticking it out, finishing the race. He crosses the line in 12th place.
Now,
that leaves just
Miguel,
Ignacio Chirino still on track.
Miguel promised that he was going to come back no matter the result last week, so we will hear straight from one of the parties involved if the title results. So we'll just wait for him to appear in the interview waiting area. But in the meantime, Tyler will guide you through the unofficial results for this final round of the season. Let me tell you what a pleasure it has been to bring you the SKR Racing League. Very short championship, but very exciting championship, and always a pleasure to bring you sim racing from some unique parts of the world that don't necessarily get, due to time zones or other factors, the exposure, but they deserve. But there are, as we have seen, some absolutely fantastic drivers. But apart from that, here we go with the unofficial results.
Absolutely, it's Dino Torcello in 1st place from 1st place. Pretty much unchallenged all race, a flawless effort by Dino. Miguel Lopez Torres comes home 2nd for the Skulls and Dragons racing team. Bruno Alcaraz in 3rd, a solid recovery drive to get back onto the podium. Mauricio Otero comes home 4th. Christian Vizcarra rounds out the top 5 in 5th. Juan Rivas Brea, also on a recovery drive, brings it home in 6th place. Yun Martinez comes home 7th. Adolfo Macher in 8th. Julio Del Carpio sits 9th. Javier Paez in 10th. Rafael Benavides 11th. Juan Puyol 12th. Ignacio Chirinos in 13th. And Freddie Empen, who did not finish the race, comes home in 14th. And just to echo your comments, Marco, it's really great to highlight a group that we perhaps don't see on iRacing broadcasts as much. A really excellent league from SKR. Got to see some pretty exciting tracks and some pretty exciting racing. Pretty really competitive given the size of the field. Solid racing pretty much throughout, and exciting racing, particularly at Montreal. I mean, it doesn't get much more hectic than that. But an exciting race again here today at Le Mans, and I'm happy to have been a part of these broadcasts. Happy to bring them to you here on Apex Racing TV. Do we have any interviews ready to go, Marco?
Yeah, I'm thinking that standing next to you, we should have our 2nd place finisher, Miguel Lopez Torres.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you doing?
Hello, Miguel. Nice to have you in the booth here. Congratulations on your 2nd place. Now, do you know the results of the championship?
Well, I know that Dino won the championship, and I finished in 2nd place. I'm not pretty sure about 3rd place and below that.
Gotcha. That's mostly what we were wondering. We thought that if he beat you in the race, he was going to win the championship, but we weren't certain. But still, a stellar drive, perhaps just not quite the pace that Torcello put down, but a pretty solid effort to come home in second. How was it out there?
Yeah, he was very fast the whole championship. The only race I got a chance was the last race because he messed up. He had an amazing pace every single race, and here it wasn't different. I knew this was going to be a tough race because he was 4 points leading the championship. So I had to win the race and hope that he finished third or more. So well, congratulations to him. I'm pretty sure he's celebrating.
Excellent. Yeah, great sportsmanship there, Miguel. You seem to have a pretty faultless race. I know you got to slow down exiting the Porsche curves sometime there and had to get back by Otero, but did you obviously you had to check up at the start because of the spin there. Do you think you had a chance at fighting Dino had you been able to keep in his toe, or was it kind of race lost from the beginning there?
Well, if it wasn't for the difference that he took on the first on the green flag because of the cars that spawned in front of me, maybe I could have a little bit of chance, maybe to fight at least. But also on the pit stop, I calculated a lap, one more lap, and that maybe if I put less fuel, maybe I had enough chances, but it was very tough. I mean, I only did a slowdown there that you saw. So if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I could catch him. I think he did a couple of slowdowns too, but when I saw the relative difference go down a bit, like for 5 seconds, I was like pushing a bit more, but he still got a lot of more pace than me.
Yeah, excellent, Miguel. Do you have anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, could I do it in Spanish?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, go for it.
Bueno, Dino, sé que estás ahí viendo en el chat y sé que tienes gente que te está apoyando, así que felicidades, men. Iba súper rápido todas las carreras. Creo que Juan era el que tenía más chances de ganarte el campeonato, pero bueno, tuvo la mala suerte de lo que ocurrió en Laguna. Así que nada, a partir de ahí creo que tuviste el campeonato para ti solo. Aunque en Montreal te lo puse un poquito difícil. Pero nada, bro, felicidades. Espero verte por ahí en las pistas y volver a competir contigo. Congratulations to you guys that made an amazing broadcast of the races. Every time I finish the race, I go and see pretty much the whole race. So thank you very much for doing it for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Miguel. Congratulations again on your runner-up finish today and your runner-up finish in the championship, Miguel Lopez Torres, everybody.
Yeah, thank you guys. See ya. We're thinking to race with you. I think you're going to do an Apex GT team championship or something like that. I got a message on iRacing, so
yes.
We're evaluating it. So if we can compete in your tournament.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, we would love to see you there, Miguel. Thank you for doing our advertising for us. Yes, the Apex Racing GT team championship is coming up in the next few weeks. I believe it's late November, the first race. So we hope to see you there, and congratulations once again, Miguel Lopez Torres.
Thank you. See ya, guys. Good night, everyone.
And that was Miguel Lopez Torres, very, very sportsmanlike in his comments in Spanish after he was poking a bit of fun, to Dino, because of course he missed the Laguna Seca race, if I'm not mistaken. But in the end, he was acknowledging that he was the Juan Rivas. He was talking about Juan Rivas, of course, who missed the Laguna Seca round. Otherwise, he would have been there fighting for the title. And yeah, so as you.
I'm glad you got that, Marco. My Spanish, I can pick it up if I hear it slowly, but when native speakers are talking at their native pace, it's not for me.
Again, my
so thank you, Marco.
I have middle school Spanish, so apart from race introductions, I don't know. I read a quote somewhere that I can use my Spanish to move around in a city, but not to get out of trouble. So.
Yep, I think that's about where I am as well.
Say if I have to ask stuff slowly and if I have to listen to stuff slowly, is no problem. If I have to something that involves quick thinking or stuff like that. Like for example, you would never hear me curse in Spanish, but I regularly curse in English because it becomes second nature after a bit. So so that is where we are more or less.
Gotcha. Yeah, of course, Rivas Brea is Miguel Lopez Torres' teammate at the Skulls and Dragons racing team, so potentially we would see those two in the Apex Racing League GT Team Championship, which, as he mentioned and we mentioned, is coming up in the near future. But that about does it for us here at Le Mans for the SKR Racing League season finale. I had a lot of fun. The couple of races that I got to broadcast for this series, some really competitive racing. And some really exciting tracks, pretty much the classics for me. So I'll let you give your final thoughts, Marco, and then we can close it out.
Yes, sir. So, well, thanks a lot, Tyler. Yeah, it's been. I completely agree with you, and it's been worth it, to have this somewhat odd wake-up calls for me at 3-4 in the morning to cover. Of course, we have been through a timing change in the meantime. I like that the championship has more or less maintained the same amount of drivers through and throughout, which is not very easy to do, and the numbers were always satisfying. We also have some great battles, and again, it's so refreshing to see these new names on iRacing and of course on Apex Racing TV, and if we can have a bigger South American contingent doing European time races like Apex Racing GT on Sunday nights, it's absolutely fantastic, and certainly a welcome change. We have a plethora of European and North American drivers, racing in the traditional time slots, but it would be great to have some new faces as well, because as we have seen, some of these drivers can be absolutely competitive, and they showed it in this 5-race championship. So that's it for me. Tyler, as per usual, you can close it out.
Absolutely, and agree with everything you said there, Marco. Always great to bring a new audience into to us here at Apex Racing TV, and to anyone who may be watching at home. So for all of us here at Apex Racing TV, I'm Tyler Newitt. That was Marco Barbanera doing the heavy lifting tonight. Thank you, and good night, good morning, wherever you may be in Marco's case, and we'll see you next time.